If you enjoy the After the Collapse videos, please cast your vote by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thanks for watching. The modern globalized world is a gigantic cybernetic organism. It is infinitely entangled, and increasingly it grows more complex as we approach what some have termed the technological singularity. Like a brain that is constantly building synaptic connections but remaining the same size, information and communication grow exponentially every year. It's a tangled worldwide web we weave. It is a convoluted labyrinthine network of interactions that knit together the megaprocessor that is the human hive mind. The unifying factor in this orchestra of civility is information, communication, and energy. Ever since the first words were uttered by primordial man, there has been an endless refining and elaboration of the process of communicating various types of information, from grunts and hand signals to the advent of language, to tribalistic chants and artistic expression, to messengers, then snail mail, then the telegraph, then radio, then television, all the way up to the internet and satellites that relay information to your cellular phone. This is the grid we so cherish. This is the grid that could, at any time, get unplugged. With modern technology, everything communicates with everything else. Sensors communicate with mainframes. Power grids communicate with streetlights. Quadrillions of petabytes of data is transferred every second of every day to facilitate this network of communication. Communication, even in its most rudimentary form of grunts and groans, is what differentiates us as a species and has facilitated our evolution into what we are today, into a civilization whose existence depends on sustaining this vast and multifarious network of communication. Grid down, global collapse, or worldwide shit hits the fan, as it's commonly referred to by survivalists and preppers, ultimately boils down to a breakdown in our communications network. We can use the organic analogy of the world as a body to understand how a global collapse would ensue. In order for the global body to function and for its 7.5 billion and growing human inhabitants to remain vital and nourished, trillions of transactions and interpersonal calculations must be seen through with utmost precision every millisecond of every day. Just like the human body, if even one cellular process or DNA replication out of trillions is done in error, then the whole system is at risk of being thrust into a degenerative spiral of disease, then death. Only one vein need to be clogged, one aneurysm, one cell infected, one flawed DNA replication, or stroke or strike for this massively complex system and its quadrillions of interactions to be brought to a grinding halt. Our global society is different only insofar that it is by far more frail. Where our bodies have evolved for millions of years and are hardened to the elements, our civilization, however, is measured in mere millenniums. This house of cards teeters on the fulcrum of inevitable human error and the randomness of natural disaster, such that the faintest breeze or miscalculation and austerity might extinguish our flame. This complicated world we have created is a delicate flower, a beautiful yet temporary exception that has been made in a cold and barren universe for which there is no known end. The grid is not God-given. Every length in the human chain holds great significance for the whole. Every stoplight, every turn of every conveyor belt, every dotted I and crossed T on every piece of officiating paperwork that organizes and regulates our lives. Every mandatory stamp of approval, every court that presides over our disagreements, every shipment that is sent and received, every pixel of every text message that was ever sent, every transport that unloads its cargo in the nick of time, every schedule and every deadline, every accounted for milliwatt of energy generated and diffused through miles of power lines into coffee machines that are going to invigorate and energize a worker to perform his task with minimal human error for just one more minute, just one more hour, just one more day. Every toilet that is flushed into oblivion, every toxic part per million that is filtered out and flows through our taps into our cups, every well that is dug, every climate that is controlled, all the food that is regulated, and every disease that is eradicated or inoculated against, every criminal that is tried and perpetrator that is monitored, every gram of mechanically separated food that traverses the combines on through the corridors of the grocery store and ends up on your dinner table, every genetically modified husk of wheat that is researched, every pest that is eradicated and weed that is squelched out so that we might eat for just one more day, Every credit spent with good intent, every prescription that is filled, every ounce of oil harvested and refined, and every gas tank that is subsequently topped off. All of this depends on the streamlined and harmonious functioning of this global body. It is all methodically orchestrated and coordinated by some form of communication. Without communication, information, and energy, none of the aforementioned works. Every convenience we have come to know relies on this exchange of information to be played out to a T every millisecond of every minute of every day. This is beautiful as it is petrifying. Our entire system, the entire grid relies on it. When information stops flowing, there's a communication breakdown. Then there is gridlock, then there is implosion, which leads to catastrophe. And at the deepest crevasse of this trajectory, there is extinction. Once we humans were hardened to the elements from which we spawned. We couldn't be distinguished from the furry beasts that hungrily clawed through the jungle, scouring for calories. As domesticated individuals now, we have grown bionic. We are now hardwired to the machine. We are plugged into the grid as much as the electronics we prize, and as such we are as susceptible to a power outage as they. We require technology to survive like a premature newborn in an incubator or an old man on life support, and without it, it is quite factual that many, if not most of us, will die. This is not speculation, this is an absolute scientific fact. If the oil stopped pumping tomorrow, half the population on the planet Earth would die within months. Oil, like communication, is everything. So if it stopped flowing, there wouldn't be the time nor the social organization capable of bringing order to the situation and coordinating the now gridlocked masses into localized economies that had a full-on reversion to the good old traditionalist communal spirit that some believe has been suppressed by this globalized market. As if to say we could at once revert from a full-blown globalized economy to a localized one overnight, and that we could somehow sustain the 7.5 billion people. It's like the odds of a jumbo jet being assembled by a tornado. It's not impossible, as nothing is, but it is exceptionally improbable. The quote that survival is the exception and extinction is the rule is quite relevant here. Many are wholly dependent on this global body. I like to refer to it as the macro chip, or the global grid, if you will. The sleek packaging of their favorite processed food has convinced some people that they're not 9 meals from anarchy, and it gets sleeker and sleeker every year. Think about that. The further we fall from grace, the better our food shall taste, until one day we're fighting with each other over the remaining rat, and heaven forbid we are forced to consume one another. The fact is, we are only ever a stone's throw away from full-blown cannibalistic tribalism. This is not a theory. This is a fact. The modern world is an incubator. It is a life support system on this spaceship Earth. Many do not know that they are incubated. They just presume that the incubator is a universally endowed fact, something that they are entitled to or a birthright, and not something that is powered by information, communication, and energy, all things which are prone to human error and failure. Whole generations have grown up now hardwired to the machine, only knowing the comforts of the modern world and sheltered from most of its challenges, from which we as a species respond and harden by. They have been denied the experience of the full exposure to the elements as primal man was. If ever they were thrust into the wilderness without their technological devices, they would be dumbfounded, fully exposed, naked and dreadful, at the whim of nature in all its abysmal enormity, cold and desperate. It has taken thousands of years for us to earn the luxury of not knowing where our food comes from, or even caring for that matter, and rightly so, as there is no time to care. There are too many bills to pay, too many titles to uphold, too many videos to upload and superficialities to convey, fronts to flaunt, statuses to update, and selfies to share, and there is no going back now, at least not for all of us. The lucky few who will have retreated to homesteads only will later be forced to deal with droves of starving refugees. For most of us, the only experience with nature is for a weekend camping getaway, and not without as much technology as possible to make this short venture comfortable. Perhaps we are unconsciously motivated to go camping as a reminder of how harsh the world is and how good we actually have it in the shelter of the macro chip. Think about this. We willingly downgrade our standard of living and call it a vacation. If that doesn't tell you something special about our longing to test ourselves, then I suggest you rewind the tape and listen again. It is quite telling that so many amongst us long for the harshness of nature as a form of retreat from our so-called high standard of living, as this is what truly makes us human and vital. It reminds us that we are still alive, and that all truth there is a subtle, perhaps spiritual hardship to living in the first world. That there is perhaps a struggle in being mechanical, following rules, that human beings are not robots. And in doing these things like camping and vacations, this is our way of railing against that. Perhaps this is why, as I've speculated in the past, that so many preppers and survivalists have tired of the gluttony of modernity and long for something more, long to survive, to make sure that they are in fact a living, breathing beast that bleeds, because it's very easy in the modern day to forget that one is. We are so conditioned to being fully dependent on the grid for our survival that when the communication systems inevitably break down and can no longer facilitate our standard of living, we would be thrust into the deep end. Most of us having never had swimming lessons, people would fight tooth and nail for the few life rafts that remain, and hopefully those life rafts have a destination or a place worth going when the smoke clears. Bloodthirsty pandemonium and violence is but a stone's throw away from the mass panic created by suddenly having your entire world altered, by realizing that McDonald's was closed and would never ever open again. We the masses have become fully immersed in virtual renditions of reality. Our natural intuition has all but atrophied. We've become integrated into the machine more and more with every passing moment, and the more we do so, the less likely we are to survive when the incubator is unplugged. The more plugged in we are, the more damaging it will be when the power goes out, or worse, when our metaphorical circuits get fried. In this way, evolution has been a gamble. It necessitates that we deny our primitive instincts and capabilities so we can fully immerse ourselves and partake in this system, such that should the grid ever falter, we would perish in an instant. To the victors have gone the spoils, and to the spoiled inevitably comes the toil with collapse. Those with the greatest investment in the current system, those who are propped up by it the most, those who perhaps didn't prepare for its inevitable collapse will fall hard, will fall fast. Those who were once under their thumbs were no longer held at bay by the police. They were given free rein in the streets to reassert themselves, to redefine themselves. This is the big quote-unquote reset that preppers speak of. Some indignant, some are fearful, some are curious. Whatever the prepper's motive might be, one thing is certain. It's not that we fear the end of the world, but that we appreciate the frailty of the one we have now.